You're a tall guy.
Well, it's great to be back here at the CRA. You know, I've been traveling across the state. I've made 5 trips to all 50 counties. My name is David Fernell, running for lieutenant governor. And, you know, it's great to be back here where, you know, Ronald Reagan called the CRA the conscience of the Republican Party. And if there was ever a time America needed a conscience, it's now. I can tell you as I travel across state, when I think of that as a Catholic, you know, I came from a giant Catholic. As a matter of fact, I might ask to see if anyone has more relatives than me. My father was the second of 10 kids. My mother was the second of 7, and I am the oldest of 28 grandkids. So I don't know if anyone has more, but this would be the room. So my grandparents recently just passed away at 101. Yeah, they were married 78 years, and they died 3 months apart. So, and just before they died, my grandfather at 100 passed his driver's test and took her to church every Sunday. So, you know, people often ask, you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, sort of behind enemy lines. How did a Catholic kid get there? And my father was drafted for Vietnam, and so I moved there when I was 1. And I've really gotten to know the state since then. And, you know, as I travel the state, I see 3 groups that are going to make us win in a big red wave. And one is the Catholic Hispanic community, the Christian community, the Asian community, and the third group is really angry mothers who do not like what is happening to their kids in school. So, you know, I've made it a point, and I think one thing I like about the candidates is they're in to win it. And the big issues for them are jobs. The big issues for them are security. And the big issues for them is what's happening to their families. Now, I, behind enemy lines, got elected to the Crime Prevention Council in Oakland as a Republican. So I can reach out, and I have been reaching out to communities that Republicans often haven't gone to. And I think that's going to be key to our election. I'd like to introduce my secret weapon, which is my wife in the back of the room, not Fernell, also Catholic. Her family, refugee, her family was a suppressed Catholic family in Vietnam. They lost half their family at sea coming to the U.S. She was in a refugee camp in the Philippines speaking no English, came here the right way, and a more patriotic group of people than immigrants that have escaped communism and have come here. So finally, you know, I know the time is short, and Jenny, they put me ahead of you because I've got an event tonight with the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, who was just elected there in Bakersfield. I'll be meeting. But real quick, just to close, because I know it's short, I get when I'm out there is thank God you're here. And people who you would not expect are Republican come up to me and say, you know, I've never voted Republican, I'm voting Republican. I'm so glad to meet a lieutenant governor candidate. What does the lieutenant governor do? So the joke in Sacramento is what the lieutenant governor does is gets up in the morning, pulls out the paper, checks the obituaries, and if the governor is not there, he goes back to bed. That's the joke, but in reality, am I out of time? No. In reality, the lieutenant governor is an extremely important position. He is actually the president of the Senate. He sits and chairs the Economic Council. He's supposed to write the economic plan for the state. Yeah, which hasn't been done. And I can tell you, talking to Republicans, do you know what our biggest export, they tell me, in D.C. from California is right now? People? Yeah, people is our biggest. People is our biggest export. That's right. But the other big export is Kamala Harris is our best. Because the more Kamala Harris talks, the more people go from decline to stay to Republican. But the other important thing is, we think about conscience and what's taught to our kids, what is taught to our kids in school. Working in Oakland to Berkeley, the conservative kids aren't getting speakers on campus. They're not getting all. Lieutenant governor sits on the board of regents for the UC schools. Very powerful. Sits on the board of regents for all the state schools and sits on the board of regents for the community colleges. So when we talk about young people not getting the conservative voice, I can assure you when I sit on that board, we will hear both sides and you will hear our point of view. The lieutenant governor also sits on the Emergency Preparedness Council. They sit on the Land Use Commission. So it's an extremely important office. But in closing, I'll tell you one of the most important roles of the lieutenant governor. Again, it's like a hidden position they don't want to let you know about, but those boards and positions, just like school boards, we're all trying to get elected, very powerful. But of course, one real important position is the lieutenant governor becomes the governor when the governor's out of the state. So I'm hoping Jenny and other will get in. There's our speaker. We just met up in Reading. We're crisscrossing the state as other candidates. I hope she gets in. But the reality is, does anyone know the last time there was a lieutenant governor elected as a Republican? Does anyone? History? Mike Kerb. Ronald Reagan got Mike Kerb elected. I think it was 78, got elected. Now, in our state, you can have a Democrat governor, which happened in 78 with Jerry Brown. Yes. And then you had a lieutenant governor who was a Republican, Mike Kerb, who was a record producer of the Osmonds. He also did Mike Greenwood, God Bless the USA. So Ronald Reagan said, hey, you got to. He ran and won. So, and this happens in North Carolina and other states all the time where you have this balance. We need balance in Sacramento, and this is one way to get it. So, 79, they go off, Jerry Brown wants to be president, runs off to Iowa. Yeah. He's having a hard time in Iowa. They're calling him Boom Beam, he's fighting away. But things get worse because his lieutenant, you're out of the state, I'm the governor. He starts appointing judges, signing laws, and setting up, getting rid of some executive orders. That would be nice. So Jerry Brown has to drop his presidential race, fly back to California and say, hey, what's going on? He sued the lieutenant governor, very California, let's have a lawsuit. It went all the way to California Supreme Court. And the California Supreme Court said, sorry, Jerry, it's in the Constitution. When the governor is out of the state, the lieutenant governor is in charge. So I want Jenny to win or someone else, but I'll say this. Gavin might want to run for president. When he's off in Iowa as lieutenant governor, I'm going to be signing some laws for you. Thank you, Dave, for lieutenant governor. Thank you so much. David Fennell for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember those Mike Kerb days. Boy, I tell you, that hit like fire. He was doing everything he could do to make things right at the time that he had to do it in. And boy, I tell you, that was something to behold. Now, you candidates who are seeking the CRA endorsement, we think that's well and fine. We appreciate you presenting yourselves as leaders for our state. But once you receive the endorsement, we would like to know that you will use it fully. We want you to, at that point, when you receive the endorsement, you are eligible to use our logo. And we'd like to see it on your campaign material. We'd like to see it on your banners. We'd like to see it on your website.